everyone. I'm Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. What's going on? It is off-season time. Combine's right around the corner. Free agency is soon. Teams are going to have to start getting cap compliant. We're talking a lot of different trade candidates out there. Deebo Samuel, Cup, etc. Steelers could get involved in those type of things. I am hitting draft prep really heavy. But I want a big picture, take a step back topic today about the run game in the NFL. Now, you know I'm a big analytics guy as much as I can, and the world has shown us in the NFL that quarterbacks are king, and this is a passing league, and all those type of things. But I think the pendulum might be swinging a little bit. And first off, this is not going to be groundbreaking news, but as was the case last year, the Steelers are going to be one of the run-heaviest teams in the league. And just in terms of run-pass percentage, all year, they were right there with the Eagles and the Ravens as the run-heaviest teams in the league. Because the last couple games got away from them and they had to throw a lot in the second half, they ended up as like the fifth heaviest run team. But in reality of how they want to play football, we all know they are going to be a voluminous run team. And I've been saying all along, a huge key to getting better on offense is instead of averaging 4 yards a carry, you got to average 4.3. You got to be middle of the pack. You can't be bottom of the league in yards per carry. Okay. I think we know those things. But I wanted to talk about the rest of the league in terms of how important the run game is now. Like the Super Bowl's a small example. It's one game. It's 60 minutes of football. But the Eagles came in as a great running team. The combination of quarterback Barkley, run and scheme and blocking is elite. That's unchallenged. But boy, an underreported thing of that game, Kansas City's run defense was awesome. I mean, their tackling was great, an underappreciated skill in today's NFL. Tackling is more important than ever. Their run defense, their ability of safeties to come up and fill holes and take Barkley down was phenomenal. They didn't do anything else particularly well. But on the other hand, Kansas City came in with the game plan of we're going to throw it 1,000 times. We don't trust our blockers. We're just not going to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands. We know you're an uphill challenge. And that's not the reason they lost or the reason, the outcome of the game. But they could take two different approaches of how to get there and how to prepare for that game. But what I wanted to stress to you today is I understand a lot of you guys don't understand advanced statistics and EPA, which is expected points added. But to me, EPA is the best judge of who has successful offenses, who has successful pass defenses, And I just wanted to talk about I'm going to start with defense, but I want to be more attuned to the offensive side of the ball. So rush EPA. The worst teams in the league in terms of defending the run. And this isn't situational, it breaks it down on a per play basis. It's not how many yards did you allow because you're losing all the time. And in the fourth quarter, they're just running down your throat. It's how efficient. Please think of that. Run defense efficiency. How good are we play after play? That's what I love about EPA. The teams that were worst, many of them had a worse year than you would have expected from them. The results weren't as good as expectations. Carolina was the worst in the league, followed by Dallas by a wide margin. They were the worst two run defenses in the league per EPA. New Orleans was really bad. San Francisco, Cincinnati, Chicago. These are some of the worst run defenses in the league per EPA. And a lot of those teams underachieved this year. I mean, I think that's safe to say, the Cowboys, etc. Some of the teams that most overachieved this year, though, were the defenses that were best against the run. The Vikings were number 1. The Eagles were 2. The Ravens were 3. Denver's a great example. We didn't think of Denver as a playoff type team, or Minnesota for that matter. Next up was the Bills. Houston, Tampa's a great one too. Green Bay, the Chargers. So I just listed the top 9 run defenses, and almost all of them, I think all of them, ended up as playoff teams. Run defense is extremely important nowadays. The Steelers ended up in run defense per EPA right between Cleveland and Atlanta. Is basically exactly middle of the road. And it was much better than that going into that last stretch of games, but those things matter, and you got to stop Derrick Henry, etc. So my point is, and you'll see it on the other side, the running game efficiency, whether it's offense or defense, is really coming back around to being a massive determining factor of who outkicks their coverage, who underperforms over the course of the year. It translates to winning. And that kind of warms my heart, to be honest with you, because it's old school. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action, the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. So let's talk about the offensive side of the ball in terms of rushing EPA. And we'll start with the bottom teams. And I think it's pretty safe to say all these teams didn't live up to expectations, didn't run the ball efficiently, couldn't count on that aspect of their team, basically played with one arm behind their back. And I'm going to start with the worst. Vegas. Terrible. Miami used to be great. I mean, with the Chan and 2 years ago, awful. I mean, these are some of the biggest underachieving / worst teams in the league. New England, Tennessee, they have the first pick in the draft. Chicago, the Browns, massively underachieving year. Dallas. Those are the worst teams per EPA running the football. Next up is Seattle. But then next up is the Steelers. The Steelers are 9th worst in terms of rushing the ball in the most efficient manner possible. And just trust me, that's what EPA judges. You know, how expected points added on a per play basis. That's not going to cut it. I mean, it's similar to obviously yards per carry, which is much easier to delineate. But like in the EPA world, if it's 3rd and 1 and Jerome Bettis gets 2, that's a positive play where that hurts your yards per carry. You know what I'm saying? You know, or one play that Saquon breaks free for 80 brings your yards per carry up massively, but it's still only one play. You know, I mean, trust me, I'm not ripping on Barry Sanders, but if Barry Sanders rips off 2 long runs and then there's 7 ones that he dances behind the line of scrimmage and has no blocking and gets a negative, well, his EPA wouldn't be as good as his yards per carry. You see what I'm saying? But now look at these teams. I mean, you think about preseason expectations and overall success of the entire football team. And the best rushing teams in the league per EPA. And to be honest, over the last 5, 6, 10 years, you could just look at passing EPA and tell you who the best teams in the league are. And I think the league is changing. That's my whole point of this podcast, folks. But anyways, the best teams in the league in rushing EPA from first on down, the Eagles. Yeah, won the Super Bowl. The Ravens. They easily could have gone to the Super Bowl. Those two are well above everyone else. Buffalo is a distant third, but they're still third, and they had great success too. They were a Final Four team. These teams also have really good rushing quarterbacks. Next up on this list, Washington, really good rushing quarterbacks. And to the Bills' credit, they used to be a throw it around the yard team. And over the last year or two, they realized this is the way the league's going. We play in Buffalo, New York. We're going to get big and nasty on the offensive line, bring in 6 offensive linemen more than any team in the league, and they've developed a great rushing game. So, okay, back to the list here. Philly 1, Ravens 2, Bills 3, Washington 4, Detroit, not unexpected at all, number 5. Tampa, I mean, people want to give Baker Mayfield credit, and he's done well, don't get me wrong. But they are on the best in the list on run and pass EPA, or I'm sorry, offense and defensive rushing EPA. And they're not the most talented team in the league, but they just keep winning the division in the South. It's not the easiest division or the hardest division out there, but that team's doing a lot of good things. Next up was Atlanta, Arizona, Green Bay. I mean, those ones aren't as strong a case, but I think it's safe to say the Cardinals had a better year than most of us expected, you know. So this is what you need to strive to be in order to be a big dog for the Steelers. I mean, a rushing quarterback would help, but the Lions didn't have one. Mayfield runs a little. He's certainly not Hurts, Lamar, Allen, Jaden Daniels, who are at the top of this list. But I just thought it was interesting that the direct correlation has changed in terms of how efficiently you run the football and how many games you win and how far you go in the playoffs and how successful you are and how much you maybe exceed expectations as a football team. And I think this proved it reasonably well. All right, guys, thanks so much. We will talk soon. And clearly the Steelers need to get better on both sides of the ball in this capacity. Clearly. Over and out.